Good morning. Thank you, Becca, and to Manpower for providing your unique insights and contributing to our economic forecast report. We really appreciate you being here. Certainly thank you to Alan Naples, M&T Bank, for all that you do for Center State CEO, but also this community at large. We really appreciate it. Jane, Amico, Lisa Mitat, Krista Glazer, Cindy, thank you for putting on a small, intimate breakfast for 600 of our closest friends. We really appreciate the hard work that goes into putting these together. And a final word of thanks to our 230 Center State CEO members and business leaders who participated in our survey. You are the individuals with boots on the ground. You are the ones who help us take your knowledge and insight and put these macroeconomic trends into a context that is both real and understandable. So let's take for a moment what's real before we try to make further sense of it all. 71% of our forecasters are projecting overall sales and revenue growth in 2015, the highest level of business confidence we have seen from our members since before the recession. A year ago at this time, 68% of our survey respondents forecasted revenue growth for 2014, and 63% of those respondents actually did experience growth last year. That number was up 5% from 2013 and continues a slow and steady progression over the last 5 years in the number of businesses reporting improving economic conditions. Last year, 49% of you expected corporate profits to increase, and this year's projection is 54%. In 2014, only 39% of you expected to be hiring in 2014, with 53% of you expecting no change at all. But for 2015, that projection is much improved, with a clear majority of you, 51%, projecting job growth this year, while the number of you projecting job losses has shrunk to 7%, the lowest that measure has been in years. This is what our forecasters predicted when looking at their businesses through their own eyes. But we also asked them to look beyond, to think about how they were experiencing and feeling the economy in our region as a whole. It was comforting to us to hear an equal measure of optimism, a sense that our region is growing steadily, yes, not growing as quickly as we might like it, but they are seeing signs of progress nonetheless. They cited opportunities presented by our region's thriving entrepreneurial culture, investments that are creating a newly resurgent downtown, emerging trends and new offerings that are breathing new life into traditional industries like agriculture and tourism, as well as hope that recent investments in new industries like unmanned aerial systems will provide a much-needed boost to our economy. These anecdotes and insights are supported in part by some of the most obvious economic indicators available for our region. Our unemployment rate declined to a 6-year low of 6.2% in November, down from 7.1% a year ago. As you heard from Becca, Manpower expects employers in the Syracuse area to hire at a steady pace in 2015 with a net employment outlook of 6%. And our manufacturing economy, long a bellwether of our region's economic performance, actually expanded jobs by 300 over the last 6 months of 2014, serving as the first tangible example of the drumbeat I hear from our manufacturers, particularly our small and mid-sized manufacturers, that conditions for American manufacturing are improving, that reshoring is real, and that industrial downsizing may be less of a drag on our economy in 2015 than it has been in years past. For those looking for further fuel for optimism, in 2015 there is good news at the national level as well. In a recent report shared by M&T Bank's chief economist, Gary Keith, there are some clear indications that our national economy is gaining momentum. This year, GDP growth is expected to average 3%, the strongest performance in a decade. On an annualized basis, real GDP growth has exceeded that 3% estimate in 4 of the last 5 quarters, something that we haven't experienced at the national level since 2005. Corporate profits continue to reflect a similar trend, remaining at historically high levels and providing our employers with the flexibility to respond quickly to rising customer demand. And as we all know, as consumers buy more, employers invest more and hire more, creating more than 2.5 million private sector jobs last year alone, the highest number since 1999. The economy is picking up. The outlook is positive and improving. So where's the champagne? The fact is, our economic circumstance and our perception of our economic circumstance is a relative measure. And there are, in fact, legitimate reasons for our economy to feel like prosperity, the kinds of prosperity we all want, still elude us. Private job growth in the region's three major metropolitan areas, Syracuse, Utica, Rome, and Ithaca, lags well behind that of upstate peers in Albany and Buffalo. On a year-ago basis, private sector employment in November was only 0.1% higher than in 2013, compared to a U.S. growth rate of 2.3%. Of great concern to each and every one of our members looking to grow in this time of greater economic prosperity, the regional workforce, the very foundation of our economic success that Becca spent so much time talking about, actually declined by 23,000 people over the past 12 months, more than half of our total workforce contraction since 2007. And perhaps most troubling, as we've talked about recently, in the city of Syracuse, 1/3 of our adult-age population and 50% of those under the age of 18 live in poverty. So no wonder then that amidst the hope, the optimism that we've heard from our economic forecasters across all industry sectors, we also heard a steady refrain of caution and concern that was unusually consistent. Yes, conditions are improving. Yes, the outlook for 2015 is positive, forward-looking, and an improved picture from the year before. But those in our economy who don't study the economy, but who experience it, who feel it with every job application, every difficult decision, every paycheck, there's neither the time nor the inclination nor the money to celebrate. You know, it's amazing what being a parent does to you. Whether it's some dormant gene that activates the moment the doctor hands you your baby boy, whether it's simply the humbling process of being forced to see the world through a child's eyes. I find myself relearning all these lessons that were once so common and familiar as to be routine. A few short weeks ago, I exercised a bit of discretion, left work early, and went over to a holiday party at my son's daycare. I remember the day vividly because it started with a series of less than productive conversations with certain community partners about the governor's proposed Upstate Revitalization Fund, what has colloquially become known as the Syracuse Billion. The fact is, it's not a Syracuse billion at all, or a Rochester billion, or a Utica billion, but a proposal by the governor to invest more than $1.5 billion in the revitalization of upstate communities, similar to what the state has done successfully in Buffalo and Albany over the last many years. It's the single largest investment in the upstate economy that I have ever heard proposed for places like Syracuse, and it is a major opportunity for this region, and frankly for all of the upstate economy that has lagged the rest of the nation for so many years. To be clear, this investment is not an entitlement, and at this point is nothing more than a proposal by the governor, but it's certainly gotten a lot of attention. But what hasn't received the same headlines is that the investment in the upstate economy, if it passes legislative scrutiny, is being designed as a competition, just like the regional economic development councils, to encourage and reward the best ideas. The long and the short of it is we are being challenged once again to develop robust, data-driven plans, to invest in new and existing industries that offer the greatest potential to attract private investment and create good-paying, sustainable jobs, to build our human capital and connect those in our economy who need jobs to the jobs that we create, to build upon and leverage our region's academic and research excellence. Yes, to invest in the infrastructure that we need to build and sustain a modern 21st century economy, but most importantly, to develop shared priorities between our public and private sector, to join hands to solve some of our own problems before we ask the state to invest alongside of us. So I know what you're all wondering. What does this have to do with a group of 2-year-olds at a holiday party? So, picture it. All the kids in my son's daycare, they're dressed in their holiday finery. There are hats and cookies and noisemakers, the actual kind you blow into, not just the kids. After cake and juice, they all line up for a little parade. And what do? they hold hands. One by one, Johnny, Lee, Emma, Carter, Peyton, Ben, the rest of his class, they transform from 12 little people into this large amoeba-like caterpillar scurrying around on 24 little feet. And why do they hold hands? It's not because Emma and Ben are madly in love, but she does share her stickers with them. Right? It's not because Johnny and Ben like to share their trucks, because frankly, neither one of them really like to share their trucks with anyone. They do it so that at the end of the parade, despite all of their individual pulling and tugging, they end up in the same place together. Together just works better. Together, our region's public and private sector partners crafted the region's Metropolitan Business Plan, the Center State Agenda for Economic Opportunity, developed with the Brookings Institute and hundreds of regional stakeholders, giving us exactly the kind of data-driven framework that we need to pursue this new opportunity before us. Together, gave us initiatives like New Air, where our region is pursuing a brand new market for unmanned aerial systems, attracting interest from hundreds of companies from all over the world, and supporting existing employers in our region like SRC and Saab. Together gave us Armory Square Ventures, the first new venture capital fund in upstate New York in more than 15 years, where people and institutions right here in this region are putting their money at risk to invest in the very best startups emerging from the innovation ecosystem that we have recreated from whole cloth. Together, business and labor and local governments are working on Consensus, the Commission on Local Government Modernization, which will release its baseline report tomorrow, designed to help us develop solutions for a stronger, more sustainable system of service delivery and governance in Onondaga County. Together, philanthropy, employers, community benefit organizations in our neighborhoods are investing in work training, connecting the un- and underemployed in our community to the job opportunities our employers are creating and the career pathways they need to continue advancing. Together gave us the Central New York International Business Alliance that assisted more than 120 businesses last year to begin exporting or to increase their exports through the development of export business plans, mentoring, and trade missions to China, Singapore, and the ASEAN nations. And together has allowed Central New York to secure more state investment through the Regional Economic Development Council process than any of the other 10 regions in New York State. Listen, the financial challenges and the infrastructure challenges in the city of Syracuse are real and difficult. Rising poverty in our city and our suburbs, real and difficult. Future of Interstate 81, real and difficult. How to breathe life into an upstate economy that has lagged behind its peers and the rest of the nation for more than 50 years, real and difficult. You all know me as someone who prides himself on partnerships, and you know that collaboration is one of the very three founding values that Center State's CEO was built on. So forgive me my occasional frustration when it feels like we fall into patterns, age-old patterns of trying to go it alone. Difficult is the reason we need each other, even if we have different perspectives, because we have a vested interest in ending up together in the same place, in a community where we're growing jobs, where wages are increasing, where we have a greater measure of community-wide prosperity than we do today. As a lifelong upstate New Yorker, I have a deep and abiding faith in this region and the people who call this place home. We are innovative, we are generous, we are absolutely impervious to cold. We have an amazing capability to design things with our heads and make them with our hands. We have had, and I hope always will have, a working class sensibility and grit that pushes us forward even as outside forces pull against us. This place has left a lasting impression on the world via the people we have raised, the products we have developed, the ideas that we have nurtured and launched into our collective human consciousness. Which is why my own personal forecast for 2015 is confident in our ability to make this year better than the last, and our ability to think big, in our ability to hold hands and meet these challenges and opportunities head on. So my challenge to you as we leave this morning and walk out to face the frozen dawn of 2015 is this: be an active part of that conversation. Be one among the many that are thinking creatively about how we can continue to build on our momentum and move this community forward. And as you dream, consider the factors that actually influence economic growth. We need and want the best of your thinking in each of these areas, and we want to encourage you to share your ideas by tweeting using the hashtag ThinkBigCNY. Please join us in making this year's economic forecast an economic reality worth celebrating next year. Thank you.